Hi folks, Josh Cooper here. This is my 9th webinar. Thank you again for everybody that's supported and watched the previous 8. Want to kind of go through a popular phrase when you talk about Douglas County school districts. They like to say they're reinventing American education. With that's come a lot of software and a lot of cost to do that. So my biggest question is, what number is it? I just can't figure it out. The Colorado Independent published an article earlier this week about some software that's being marketed for profit. It's known in the documents as just the software, but Douglas County School District has answered some Q&As saying, hey, it's the Inspired program. And within that, they have maintained that it's still a $5.6 million price tag on that. They've never provided any breakdown or any of the information on that part, regardless even after this posting and all that stuff. So the main number I want you to keep track of is that $5.6 million. So if you go to the finance page, they have this DCSD chart of accounts, and it's this huge, long thing. But at the end, it says 8916. These are the last 4 numbers on the account code, and then I also want to, which is for Inspired. I also want you to keep track of 8915 because we'll go into that one, the System Performance Framework. So how did this all start? Basically, cores have been pulled over time. This is an example of the 8916 for this year, 8915 for this year, and 8915 for 2015. If you look at these last 4 numbers, this stuff, all I did was take these core data and compile it. So this, let's go through the actual numbers. So these is all the numbers pulled right here. I'm not going to bore you, line item by line item, but I've taken summaries off of those and graphed them like I've done on the other one. So these are the core report dates, and this is the year that is reported in. Green is the budget, red is amount spent. So you can see where it's kind of changing. Look at this number here. From February 2016, we have somehow decreased expenditures. Not quite sure how that happened from February to June. That kind of raises a red flag. They also only just use 2 different codes. It's basically, the blue is what they're using to track all the expenses. This negative $10.5 thousand, that's the actual money that came back from Mile High Academy. So it is tracked under some different values. So I've taken that, but then I've also went back in the financial transparency website, the one where you can pull any information and expenses, and I took that and then I merged that tracking codes with everything else. So when I look at 8916, this is the total picture with these 2 number values right here. Red is the non-transparency. This is that $5.6 million line. That's where they're at. So you can see the budgets don't come up to that, and here's the expenses. But look how the expenses here bounce up and down. Let's actually look at that a little more in detail. So these are the total expenditures, but see how we went from 3.5 in June, and then just 24 days later it was down to 2.9 million, and then just a month later it was above 3. So you can see where these values are changing. Kind of hard to understand where they're going. And so the red is just the delta to get it up to 5.6. I don't know where this 2.5, 2.6, or $2 million are accounted for that they say is the total. They have not provided that information. So if you take that and look at the percent of that not even looking, you're talking around 35 to 45% of the total cost of this are not even tracked. But when you look at the total transparency expenditures, they still have a pretty consistent burn rate. Even if they say, hey, that's from January 2016, that's this number here. But they still been burning and had a huge chunk. It's not like they just stopped the program and they're all done. They're still burning money on that program. So we looked at that, and we also looked at the top 10 vendors of it. And this is the 8916 here. Look at Radix Metasystems. They have this huge amount of other stuff in this program at 8915. Plus they have all these 00. These are the top 10 vendors on this whole thing. And look how much they are is unaccounted for. You could almost wonder what the total costs are coming across. But look at this Radix system. Just over $6 million just has been paid to that one vendor. And that's dealing with the Inspired framework, and then 8915, the System Performance Framework. You could say that's the hardware. And this is looking at the values of that. Look at the values just on this. On the expenses and all the parts here, core dates going into that. Here's the use on that program. This is where I'm wondering if some of the money is being tracked. But blue is showing what's been within budget, what's gone over budget in the programs, and then red was not even budgeted at total. So if you take that, and then we take that also with the financial transparency, these are the accounting codes. But look at this blue one. All of a sudden we have this blue one, and then it shrinks down here. This red and this yellow are on the financial transparency websites, but they are not even tracked on any of the cores. It absolutely like it says, what number is it? It's so hard to track. They're moving numbers and values all around. If you were to just look at the expenses, just looking purely at that. So those are the values you see for that. And so then if you take just off the cores, the total values for 8915 and 8916, the Inspired program, the System Performance Framework program, you can see we're up in the $13 million range. And that's just what they're tracking. Remember we said about 35 to 45% isn't being tracked? When they say that 5.6 dealing with the Inspired, it carries over with that. So it's really hard to trust what DCSD is doing because they haven't provided a line item breakout. And the numbers they do, they don't add up to those values. So it honestly boils back to the question, what number is it? But you can see when you look at the total program, we've already crossed that $5.6 million threshold when you look at the big, on this other part of Reinventing American Education. I wish they'd tell us the number. I wish they'd actually provide that breakout. But that has not been provided. It's been asked over years. It's been asked over the last week repeatedly, and there's still no answer. I wish I could tell you there was, but I'm sorry, this is what it is. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to providing more additional webinars. Thank you.